This is Costpoint timesheet training for employees. This video will assist you in completing and submitting your timesheet. This is your company's portal page, costpointfoundations.com. The employee area in the upper left-hand corner is where you will access your timesheet by simply clicking into your timesheet or expense report. When you click on that link, it will take you directly to your login screen, where you will click on additional criteria and follow that by entering your username, password, and system. Upon login, you want to scroll down to find time and expense, time, timesheets, and your individual timesheet. Main areas of focus here will be the basic information, the body grid of the timesheet, and some additional options that you have. So firstly, we want to start with the system identifying who you are. So it lists your name, your ID, our period cycle, which happens to be semi-monthly, the period ending date, which in this case is 10/31, and the status of your timesheet. There are multiple statuses varying from missing all the way to process. So it's important to note the current status of your timesheet based on where we are in the cycle. In the body of the timesheet, which you may hear me refer to as a grid, is where you're going to add project codes to which you will charge hours to. In the case of my timesheet, this information is already populated, but I can also give you an example of how to add lines of additional information. In this case, you want to click on the magnifying glass. For those of you who are charging directly to a contract project, you want to click on Direct Project. And in this case, you can right-click above this column here and either sort the information via ascending or descending, whichever your preference, to find the information more swiftly. In this case, I'm going to scroll and use VACO as an example. It's a very popular contract for which we have a lot of employees. So in this case, I clicked on the direct project and I selected VA, VACO, ITAM. The description and the applicable PLC for employees on this contract happens to be the very top line, PLCIS. By selecting this information, you will notice it populates on my grid. It also provides a description. It populates the PLC and also gives a pay type, R signifying regular. The next line I would like to add is a fringe benefit line. In this case, again, I'm going to click on the magnifier. This time I'm going to select indirect, fringe, and you'll notice here a bevy of projects to choose from, all prefixed by the word fringe. Self-explanatory, the description to the left. Most of these I already have listed on my screen. So in this case, just for example purposes, I'm going to choose military leave and select. Again, you'll notice the project, the description. There is no PLC attached to fringe benefit, and the pay type in this case, which is an acronym for military leave. Once done, I would definitely want to ensure that this information is saved for future reference so that I no longer have to find it and affix it. So here I want to click on the check mark, which simply highlights all rows. Lower right-hand corner, you're going to click on Add Line to Favorites. The last step to saving to favorites would then be to charge the favorites, which in essence is loading the information to the portal for future reference. Here is where you can identify what's been loaded. In the event that something is incorrectly loaded, you would simply uncheck it and you can hit close. Or if you find that there are items that need to be checked, do that as well, and then hit close. In this case, I do not work on these projects. I was merely using them as a reference point for you. I'm going to uncheck these items and then hit close. That task simply populates my future timesheets so that I don't have to. Here, you would then click Save and Continue and begin to start recording time. Now, I will say this, time should not be recorded until close of business. Whatever close of business is for you, I'm sure we all work varying schedules. So whatever close of business is for you is when you should record that day's hours worked. In the event that you worked a few hours and perhaps you needed to take hours for PTO or holiday or vacation or sick, then on that particular line is where you would record the difference. You will notice that in recording time, the system will only allow you to record in half-hour increments, not quarter hour. So you either need to work the full hour or half hour for that matter, or not work it at all if you want to get credit. If it is in fact a full hour that you've worked, clearly you can see above that I've recorded hours in full prospect. For each day that comes about, you want to repeat the very same steps. Whatever hours you worked, simply record them to the appropriate line, project, and hit save. As the period nears an end, ensure all hours have been recorded for every business day worked. You'll notice here I used a scroll bar that will show me hidden information. So scrolling left to right, you'll notice there were 2 columns here hidden, and that is just based on the size of my monitor. On the right-hand side of the screen, you may also have a scroll bar that will take you up or down to see hidden information. In this case, the add line to favorites beforehand may have been missing, and now it's visible. Once the period has come to an end, review the timesheet in full. Make sure all hours have been recorded. Definitely hit save and continue. Review once more, put a second set of eyes on it just to be sure for clarity, and then sign. Signing the timesheet will ask you for your password. It will be the same password you use to log into the system, and that will be sufficient. And it will then change your status from opened to signed. Immediately thereafter, your supervisor will receive an email to suggest that you have signed your timesheet, and it now becomes their responsibility to review and either approve or reject. You yourself will also receive an email to say that you signed your timesheet. Once the timesheet has been either reviewed, approved, and or rejected, you then too will also receive an email to that edification. An example on requesting time off can be done here, or going backwards one tier to the actual work schedule, which might be easier because here you can see a full calendar versus just a few days out of a week. For an example, I'm just going to show the time that I've decided to take off in the month of November. We've got a pending holiday coming, and I have chosen to take off that business day before and the business day after. The way to have done this would be to click on New Leave Request and to simply put in those days that I intend to be absent. So in this case, it would be from the 9th of November to the 13th, because I intend to come back to work on the 14th. So this would be the first day of absence. This would be the last day of absence. Then choosing the type of PTO, or the type of leave rather, that I have access to, which in this case is PTO. For myself, this is going to be used as just that, PTO, or in your case, it may be used for vacation. It could be used for a graduation, a wedding, a surgery, whatever notes are going to make sense to you and or your supervisor for approval. This information will also be good for looking back on time to determine why you were absent. And the notes for that absence will help you to decipher, oh, okay, this is where I was and this is what I was doing. The amount of daily hours we are required to work for us full-timers is 8. So in this case, I would have recorded 8 hours there, listed the note where applicable, and then click apply. And following those orders, those steps, that is when the leave turned from not pending to then pending. It's still red. I requested this time actually more than a week ago. So for me, myself, I definitely want to tap the shoulder of my supervisor to remind them that this leave is still pending and requires their attention for approval, especially given that the time is drawing near. Never assume that because you requested leave that the leave is approved. You can always defer to your work schedule to decipher the accuracy of the request and where it currently stands. A shortcut to get back to where I was would be to click here on Open Applications. For every incremental number listed here, that's how many applications you have open. So in this case, I could simply go back to my timesheet, or if I want to defer back to the schedule, go to schedule. Those are merely shortcuts. You could just as well go backwards one tier from work schedule back to timesheet to timesheet. Same difference, one action shorter than the other. Where do you go to find your leave? How much leave do you have? How much leave are you accruing? The option here is listed just above the grid of the timesheet. This is the only place you're going to find this information. Here you will see different types of leave that we all have in common, be it PTO, sick, or vacation. For those of you who are non-SCA employees, you will have a leave type access to PTO and PTO only. For those of you who are SCA employees, you will have access to both sick and vacation. Don't think you're missing anything. PTO is just a combined bucket of sick and vacation, whereas the SCA employees, their bucket is separated. Here in the upper grid, you'll notice the leave shows only a balance. If you click on the different types, you will notice the balance change as well as the detailed grid below. In this case, I do not accrue for sick or vacation, therefore I cannot use sick or vacation. This is why the details are blank. For my PTO, you'll notice a balance of $174.77. How did it arrive at that number? At the beginning of this year, I started with a beginning balance of $118.11. For every timesheet submitted, you'll notice I have an accrual. And it always gives you the timesheet date. That way there's no confusion as to what the accrual was for. So for every accrual, here and there are times where I also took leave. So merely doing the math of adding and subtracting is what gives you the balance where we are at this current time. The most current accrual in this case would be 10/15, and as of today, I have not taken any additional leave, and therefore the balance currently is $174.77. You'll also notice, which is always helpful, to list a reason, a note. Why are you absent? This will help you in the long run to answer any questions that you might have an inquiry about, and or your supervisor. It's always good to be able to defer back to absences and the reasoning behind them. And here you can see the examples for myself. To come out of here, you can click close. And it defers back to the body of your timesheet. The basic information will always stay stagnant. The only thing that will change is the period ending date as time moves on and the status. Charging to the favorites, we went over that. We went over leave balances and where to find them. We also went over requesting time. The proper way to exit the system would be to close out of the timesheet itself. You would click on the X here. We definitely want to close out of the schedule. And lastly, to properly log out, we want to click on the log out button. I do hope this helps and gets you on a good path of start. In the event that you have any questions, foods for thought, ways of enhancing product, or just an inquiry, please give me a call and or email, and I will get back to you just as soon as I can. Again, we'd like to welcome you aboard, hoping that you're off on a good foot. Again, welcome to MSTI.